Many people think RDR2 is an incredibly cool game, even the best of all time. But many also think it's incredibly boring and uninteresting, and they have reasons for that because the game does have some controversial moments. I played through RDR2 completely, the story, a bunch of side missions, hunting, fishing, a lot of pointless wandering around the prairies just for the sunset. I like the game. But I understand why someone considers it bad. Today, we'll figure out whether RDR2 is a bad or a good game, and why the opinions of players are so divided. Write in the comments your opinion and why you like or dislike the game. The first thing that breaks people is the speed. The animations are long, the movements are real, the horse is your transport, not a teleport. After 60 FPS shooters, this feels like viscous honey. Why can't I skip? Why does everything take so long? I remember the first time I decided to ride at night. The moon, the haze, the sounds of insects. I caught the feeling that I was not on a mission, but on a journey. And here's the paradox. The same slowness that irritated me at the beginning, after 5 hours became part of the charm. When everything is fast, you don't have time to get attached to the place. When it's slow, the brain says, I lived here. But honestly, yes, there are moments where the pace breaks the tension. The plot rushes and you're rummaging through the saddlebags, and this is not very good, I don't argue. For some, this is enough to write, the game is bad, and I understand them. Most players give up on the game in the first half of the game, never having seen the best part of RDR2. In fact, I was like that too. I was incredibly tired of riding a horse back and forth doing some quests that essentially do not move you along the plot, so I abandoned the game in the first half. But after some time, I gave the game a second chance, and now I think that everyone should play RDR2. In fact, this slowness in the first half of the game is done on purpose to tie the player to the characters. And already in the second half of the game, it really bears fruit, because when someone from Dutch's gang dies, it is really sad and you sincerely empathize with the characters because you have already gotten used to them and become imbued with them. Weapons need to be cleaned. Food, cooked, skins, butchered, horses, fed, sounds like a cowboy simulator. For some, this is a sacred thrill of detail. For others, it is unnecessary hassle. At first, I ignored cleaning weapons. Then I noticed the barrel hits worse, reloading takes longer. And when, in a shootout, this cost me a reload, I suddenly began to treat the rifle not as a pixelated object, but as Arthur's thing. The weapon got a biography, where I found it, what we survived, why I forgot to clean it before the assault. The game makes you care, and not just collect loot. But again, if you have 40 minutes to play in the evening, and half the time you clean the hardware, yes, you can be disappointed. I understand why someone yells, too realistic, let me play. It's a strange thing. The world is huge, but the story missions are often like a narrow corridor setting. I walked away a little failure. I tried to go around, the script did not work. This is annoying, especially if you expect GTA degrees of freedom. A mission where you need to cover a comrade with a rifle. I tried to change my position, the mission was interrupted, and here you are. Rockstar, you are going to make me a huge world. Why can't I pick a different hill? Because this is a cinematic scene, not a tactics sim. That's it, period. I think it's a conscious compromise. To make the scenes look perfect and directorial, the player is led along rails. The downside is the feeling of being unfree. The upside is the cinematic effect. Who cares more about what? This is where the deciding factor comes in for me. If you don't get into Arthur, the game can fall apart. Because the entire emotional core is based on his inner journey, loyalty to the gang, doubts, illness, an attempt at redemption. If you don't connect, you see a long western with a micro grind. If you connect, you live with these people. The camp is the heartbeat of the game. The conversations around the campfire, Lanny's jokes, the tension between Dutch and Marston. This is not the background, this is what makes the world feel personal. If the player skips the camp scenes, doesn't listen to the dialogue, he loses 40% of the meaning. Then there are trips and shooting, and from here a bad game is born. Not because it's bad, because I didn't watch important cutscenes. RDR2 is a game that rewards those who live in the world and not check off a checklist. Ride without a goal, stumble upon something by chance, catch a fish, hear an NPC's story, turn into the forest, find a trace of a cult. This is an organic experience, and such moments outweigh all the quibbles with the game. If you play like a checklist, it seems stretched out. If you let the events find you, it opens up. There are scenes that turn the attitude of even skeptics upside down. I won't spoil much, but Arthur's illness storyline is the moment where the gameplay and the plot intertwine. You begin to treat each trip differently, the choice of who to help. Before that, I treated the gang's missions as another task. After the turning point in the plot, I suddenly caught myself listening to everyone who asks for something. And every little thing is no longer mechanics, but an attitude towards a person. And yes, at this point, the game stopped being slow, it became balanced. When you know that time may be less than it seems, you appreciate that very 5 minutes in the saddle. And yes, this is where Rockstar wins. They made me not skip the road. Let's define what is a bad game. Broken, unplayable, empty, or just not my genre. RDR2 is technically polished, atmospheric, with a powerful plot. But yes, it is slow and demanding of the player, but this still does not make the game bad. Let's build a logical chain. Pace, low, minus for those in a hurry, plus for immersion. Realism of everyday life, minus for convenience, plus for involvement. Plot on rails, minus for freedom, plus for staging. Camp and characters, critical for emotional investment. And suddenly it turns out, almost every complaint turns out to be the other side of the advantage. RDR2 is a game of contrasts. Accept it, you will be delighted. Reject it, it will be the worst game. That is. We argue not about quality, but about the compatibility of temperaments. Your style of play versus Rockstar's style of play. Who did not suit whom? And what do we get in the end? RDR2 is not bad, but it is not friendly either. It is a luxurious, slow narrative Western sandbox that requires time, attention, and a willingness to live in the role of Arthur. If you are looking for short, intense sessions, you will have a conflict with its design. I liked the game precisely because one day I stopped rushing. I realized that every long ride is a conversation, a joke, an observation, an atmosphere. I started cleaning weapons not for the sake of stats, but because Arthur is not a nameless avatar. At that moment, RDR2 stopped being slow, it became home. I will be glad if after this video you go and give RDR2 a second chance and write about it in the comments, because this game really deserves it.